The Deserted Mine. This is a story retold by Ruth Sawyer in her book called The Way of the Storyteller. She notes at the beginning of it, this has been taken from Peasant Tales of Russia by Nemirovich Dantchenko. The original story runs the length of a short novel. In cutting for storytelling, I have kept as close to the original as it has been possible. So, notes Ruth Sawyer, here is her retelling of The Deserted Mine. At the entrance of the new mine stood a group of miners. They wore leather jerkins and small lamps that flickered at their belts. The young overseer was talking to the oldest miner, whose gray beard fell untidily over his hollow chest. The old man's breath came in thin, whistling sounds. His black eyes burned like black holes shot through with strange, fantastic light. His feeble arms hung at his sides, his legs tottered under him. They called him Ivan the Silent. "Listen, old man," said the overseer, "you can never manage the ladders. We'll put you in the bucket and lower you in." The other miners laughed good-humoredly. Think of old Father Ivan thinking he could go down the ladders with the best of us. Ho, ho. Ivan looked at the bucket they were making ready. He hadn't been lowered in a bucket since he was a baby, 80 years ago. He had been born in the old mine, the deserted one. His father had been killed in it. His mother had gone on working in his place so there might be food enough for two when he was born. He had been born down there in the eternal darkness. The first noises he remembered were sounds of picks and blasting rocks. He lay all through his babyhood on an old blanket in a hole, sucking away at his milk rag. His eyes followed the flickerings of his mother's lamp. He learned to walk in the mine, his hand on the ledges of rock. As he grew, he came to know new sounds, rushing water, sudden crashing, swishing, hollow echoes. Sometimes a miner sang. Sometimes he swore or groaned. Sometimes there was silence. The silences were terrible. "Get in, old man," said the overseer. He pushed him in, and Ivan squatted down at the bottom. "Now, in the name of God, you'll turn round a bit," said one. "Look you, we'll get him down in the wink of an eye," said another. Nevertheless, there was time for many memories as old Ivan swung and creaked down on the rusty chain. He watched the square of daylight over his head dim out until it was only a speck of gray. The lamp at his belt threw timid shadows on the damp, trickling walls of the shaft. At last the daylight above him closed its gray eye, and he was in the dark. Already the shaft is old and rotten. Some day it will come crashing in with all the earth on top of it. Then those who are inside will stay in, and those that are out will stay out. He said all this to himself. He never spoke aloud. No one had heard him speak in 10 years. He stirred his memories about and pulled out one that he liked. He was still very little, talking some, walking as one does in such darkness, listening to everything. He had a friend, an old miner, old as he was himself now. Down there in what he called the comfortable darkness, he had told him about the Lord Jesus Christ. "I tell you, Ivanovich," he would say, "he has his kingdom here, under the earth, the same as above. He is here, moving about us often. Listen some day, and you will see it is truth. You will hear the rustle of his garments as he passes through the long galleries. If you are lucky, you will see him. If not today, why, then tomorrow." "And do you see him?" At the question, his friend had laughed in his throat. "Now why should I see him? I am old. Everything has grown too thick about me. But when I was little like you, Ivanovich, I heard him often and saw him. If I had not, how could I be telling you about him now?" One day his friend was telling him again about Jesus when there came a long sighing. And the sighing changed to a rumble and grumble. and there was a sense of tossing as if Mother Earth was shaking herself. "Pray, Ivanovitch," said the old man, and he thrust him down on his knees. So for the first time in his life he had prayed. He did not know what this praying was supposed to be like, so all he said was, "Good Jesus, good old Jesus." He said over a great many times, and after that he put his hands in his friend's, and together they felt their way down to the other end of the pit where his mother had been working. All they found was a mountain of fresh earth, and underneath her boots sticking out. He had tried to get those boots. He had tugged and tugged, but the mine held them fast. He had a playmate, a little boy like himself. One day they were playing at being miners, each with a pick of his own. Some way a stone became dislodged in the vault over them. It came crashing down straight on top of the playmate, and that was the end of him. When Ivan was half grown, he lost his old friend, too. He tripped on one of the ladders and came tumbling down the shaft. They buried him above ground in the churchyard. He was the only one of all Ivan knew who had been buried above ground. Ivan grew up and became a miner. His eyes were all now for his pick and the bright masses of ore he struck. He saw Jesus no longer and forgot how his garments sounded, rustling through the long galleries. Long ago they had left the old mine, deserted it. The new mine held no memories. Down went the bucket. Down went Ivan. All around him now sounded rushing water. "There's too much water," he said to himself. "If Jesus comes into the new mine, he will see it is not safe, that shaft. If he pays no attention to it, it will go quickly one day." The bucket scraped on the bottom. The old miner got out and shouldered his pickaxe. He tottered forward, mumbling, "Earth, water, darkness, they are all in God's hands." He passed other miners who spoke to him kindly but with humor. "See who comes here. Good day, Father. Here's better walking." He answered them all alike, with a doffing of his old cap. He never spoke. The gallery where he worked was high. He felt at home here. Sometimes when a terrible feeling of loneliness came over him, he would sleep here all night. The comfortable security of the dark, that was the way he felt about it. The sun frightened him. It was too big and blazing. The stars he liked. They were small and friendly. He liked flowers. Sometimes he brought down clumps of sod with daisies growing in them. The water kept them alive for days. They gleamed like stars in the flicker of his lamp. He began to work. Then he rested. He was tired. He looked out for rock that was not so hard to break. When he had a pile, he broke the metal out and put it on the wheelbarrow to wheel into the main gallery. This was hard work. He stumbled and fell many times. It was exhaustion that felled him. When he passed his fellow workers, one stopped him. "Here, wait a minute. I'll help you." But another laughed. "What, do you think now that anyone is allowed to help old Father Ivan? He is the proud, ancient one." Ivan brushed away angrily the one who had come to help. He lifted his shoulders. He straightened his tottering legs. He pushed on with his barrow. The others watched him go, wagging their heads with approval. "He is as proud as Croesus," laughed one. "He is the ancient child," said another, and tapped his forehead meaningly. And then someone cried out, "God, what was that?" A few paces ahead, Ivan dropped his barrow and stood huddled over it. No one stirred. It began with a sound of deep breathing, not human, but the earth's. It was as if the mountain over them was taking great gusts of air into its lungs. Far off at first, then closer and closer. A rush of wind came upon them and blew out all their lights. Water started gushing down on them from everywhere. Miners came running from other galleries like sheep in a pen. Only Ivan stood quite still. The overseer came hurrying up. He had a lighted torch. They stumbled after him toward the shaft. There they came upon nothing but a mountain of fresh, damp earth, and half of the bucket that had lowered Ivan into the mine. Under the earth, one could see a face with eyelids set, and far from that a hand still clutching a slice of bread with salt on it. At the bottom of the pile, the earth was changing fast to mud. At that rate, Ivan said to himself, it wouldn't take long to flood the mine. "We are lost," shouted one miner. "Caught like rats in a trap," screamed another. Panic took them. They dug their nails into the rock that penned them in. They trod on each other. They clawed each other's faces. They cursed like madmen. "Stop!" The overseer kept shouting at them. "It will not save your skins to kill your neighbors. Come, on to the long gallery. There may be a way out." The overseer led. They followed, quieted a little. But in the long gallery, it was no better. Air was growing thin. Water rushed at their heels. "Half an hour and we'll all be choking," groaned one. "If we knew the way into the old mine," said another. And another answered, crying out with hope, "Always as a boy I was told there was a way from the new into the old mine." Hope was killed the next moment. What of it? No one knows the way. Better die here where we know where we are than go wandering, lost into strange parts. Behind them came another sound of shifting earth, soft, caressing. Then a crash. Earth, rocks, driving water. Then a tumbling at their very backs. "We can't go back. We're shut off. God have mercy on our souls." A worse panic took them. They dug like beasts at the mass that shut them in until their nails hung torn and bleeding. They beat at one another with fists as hard as rock. They would have gone quite mad if something had not happened. Ivan took the torch from the overseer and spoke. It was the first time in 10 years he had spoken, and the men, in their amazement, forgot their terror and stopped to listen. "Hush," he was saying. "Keep quiet, you men." His voice was strong, his eyes blazed. "How will we hear the rustle of his garments if you make such a noise?" "Look at him! He's gone mad," whispered one. But they kept listening to him just the same. He was cocking his ear now. His eyes were searching the dark, narrow passage ahead. He kept sucking his lips in and out in a hushing sound. At last, a look of foolish delight swept his face. "Ah, what did I tell you? Look, there he goes. The light about his head, just as I remember seeing it as a child. It is 70 years since I have seen him." He swung the torch above his head, beckoning, and then he stepped his way into the passage, crying, "I come, Lord, I come." "Stop," cried the overseer. "What in the name of saints and devils do you see?" Ivan turned. "See? What you yourself see. Come. It is Jesus. He will lead us safely out." He turned away and started along the passage again, repeating his cry, "I come, Lord, I come." Holding their breath, not daring to speak, they followed, to a man. At the end of the passage, they came upon a blank wall. No way dismayed, Ivan pointed to the loose earth at the bottom and bade the men dig. "See," he pointed, "his shining footsteps. He marches through the darkness like the sun." Amazed, doubting, the men plied their picks. The rock crumbled. In no time there was an aperture. Gusts of fresh air rushed through. The men crowded about the diggers, pulled bits of rock away with their bare hands. Ivan slipped through the opening. The others followed. He led them along winding galleries. He led them through fissures and around yawning chasms where they could hear water rushing 40 feet below. along narrow ledges with sheer walls on one side and horrible precipices on the other, where they had to crawl on hands and knees, and always Ivan leading with his cry, "I come, Lord, I come." He was sobbing with eagerness now, like a child. In and out through this gallery and that he wound. The floor of rock under them now was dry. Water no longer dripped from roof and walls. Suddenly he stopped, stock still, and looked above his head. The men crowded and looked. They saw a small gray eye. They had reached the shaft of the deserted mine. A hoarse shout went up, but it died as quickly as it had been born. The ladders are rotten as dead fish. A man might as well try to climb to heaven on cobwebs. What good is it to us to see daylight if we cannot reach it? Let one of us try the ladders, said the overseer. If one can get to the top, he can fetch ropes for the rest. They turned one to another, appraising, comparing. Who was the lightest, the most agile? Who had courage to try? No one noticed Ivan. He was following the rise of the ladders as if watching for a signal. Suddenly he placed his old tottering legs on the first rung. He was 30 feet up the shaft before the others saw him. Merciful God! He will fall in a second and come down like a bag of stones. Look you, said the overseer, Ivan is climbing on faith. While his faith lasts, the ladders may hold. They climbed after him, quickly, breathlessly, so close they went it was as if each man mounted on the next man's shoulders. Up and up. They could hear Ivan's panting breath. At last, they were above ground. Strong Mother Earth was under their feet. Ivan scanned the blazing blue sky over him for an instant. He looked frightened, bewildered. Then he smiled suddenly, his face alight with the radiance of his Lord, whom he had followed. Down he went like a tottering old tree. Only the overseer caught his last cry, "I come, Lord, I come." The Deserted Mine.